Hi guys, so today I have my March and my April wrap up for you. So let's get started with the books I read in March. Those were 4 books in total, and yeah, I didn't have the best reading month in March, but I was reading this one book you will see in a minute that was just really consuming, and I needed my time for that, so that's why I haven't read more books. The first book I read and finished was the guide on what you should avoid when you're in Japan and how you can completely embarrass yourself when you do those things, and I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 stars. It was hilarious and I learned a lot about the country of Japan and a bit about the language and about the culture, and I really like this book, and it's great for people who want to know just more about Japan and how the people behave there and how you eat sushi correctly if you want to eat it like the Japanese do. And the second book I read was the first book in the Nachtsonne Chronicles, Nachtsonne by Lara Newman. I got this book on the Frankfurt Book Fair last year and I got it signed, and in March my friend Dina and I decided to read it together because there was a group and it was the month of the self-publishers there, and we decided, oh, we have both this book by a self-publishing author and well, let's read it together. And I have to admit, I did not like the book. I really did not like the book. I gave it 2 stars. It was just not my cup of tea. I normally like dystopias, and I also like dystopias that are written by self-published authors. I love the quartet of by Maya Shepard, the Radioactive Quartet. It's just great. It was really a great story, but this, not so much. I'm really sorry, but I really didn't like the book. I didn't like the main protagonist, and I really didn't like the way she was. It's not that it wasn't her character, but it's always like she always knew that something was wrong with the system, and I was just, what? Normally the people don't know and never suspect that there's something wrong with the system. They are shown that something is wrong with the system, which is totally fine. But she didn't believe in the system at all. With like, oh, I knew it from the beginning, and that was not my... And the whole story development was just not my thing. I thought Joachim was okay, and I really liked the idea, the dystopian idea behind it, but I thought the author couldn't translate the idea for me really well, so I really had to like punch myself in the face to read this book, to get through this book, and well, no, it just wasn't my cup of tea, and I was really sad because this book is really hyped here around Germany and a lot of people like this book, but I just didn't. Then the next book I read is Deep Blue, the first book in the Waterfire saga by Jennifer Donnelly, and I thought the book was starting off quite strong. I really liked that it had kind of a vibe like the Heirs of the Night, and I really loved this series. It's one of my favorites. But then the book came into a lot of world development, and you could clearly see that it was building up towards the other books, towards the greater story, and that's where the book lacked for me, so I only gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And then the final book I read in March was Underground by Haruki Murakami. I already showed that book to you in my February book haul, and yeah, that's the book that kind of kept me busy because first, it has almost 500 pages. Second, it has a really tiny font, really tiny writing, and then it was a book that was really emotionally hard to read because it deals with the sarin gas attack that is now 20 years ago in Tokyo, and yeah, it was quite hard reading that because, you know, the people who died there, who were injured there, the thoughts of the people from Aum. It was just, it's not a book you can really whiz through, you can read easily, you have to take your time for that, and that's what I did. And well, this book obviously didn't get a rating for me because that's a book you shouldn't rate, in my opinion. But it was really interesting seeing both perspectives, seeing the perspectives of the victims, how different they were, how people felt the situation, who weren't really just much infected by the gas attack. They weren't really injured. People who were really injured, the family members of those people who barely can talk anymore. And yeah, that was really a fascinating book, but also seeing how people in Aum were, that it's not all black and white. It was just really beautifully done by Haruki Murakami, and I highly recommend you to read this book, because it's just a book I think everybody should have at least scooped in. So those were all of the books I read in March, and let's get to the books I read in April. I read a total of 6 books and 1 novella, and well, I'm pretty proud of that, and it was also a really good reading month considering the ratings I gave, because yeah, you will see in a minute. So the first book I read this month was Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. I have had that book on my TBR for like forever, and I will show you this book in my book haul, but I had to get the paperback version. I had another version that was just really thick, not matching the others, and I just wanted to read the book first before I buy another edition of the book, because maybe I would not have liked them, but no, I adored this book. It was just so great. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I think Scott Westerfeld sends such a great message with these books. I cannot even. It's really, really a great book, and I needed to continue the series immediately. I had to get the second book right away, and I really just read it right away when I got it. Like, there was a day between, because not even a day, it was like I finished Uglies in the evening and read Pretties as soon as I got it the next day. So yeah, I needed to continue reading this series. Then the second book I read, because it was really short and I started it together with Pretties by Scott Westerfeld, is The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli. I will hold this in my book haul, obviously, and this is a non-fiction book, and it is about mistakes we have in thinking, the human race has in thinking, everybody has them, and how to avoid them and how to recognize them. And I really enjoyed this book. It was just really, really great. It showed us a lot of things we think and why we think them, and that we totally think them wrong, and I just really liked it. I never would have figured that I would read this book so fast. I mean, there are 52 mistakes in thinking in this book, and I thought I would read like one or two a day, and now I just whizzed through that book. I really enjoyed it. But it didn't get a rating from me, because I don't wanted to give it 1. Then, as I spoiled you, I read Pretties by Scott Westerfeld, the continuation of the quartet, and I liked this book like as much as the first book. I have to admit, this is one of the few series where I have to say that I can't say which book I prefer. They're like all really equally great for me. There is no book where I say it's better, it's worse. It's just a thing of the story continues through all of the books, and all of the books are necessary for the series, and I can't prefer any of those. The story is just so amazing how it develops. I really like that. 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Specials by Scott Westerfeld. I had it at home because I bought it with Pretties, and I also whizzed through that book. I really enjoyed how the story developed, although I didn't like certain aspects, but in the end it really pleased me. And the manifest at the end, it was just so phenomenal. It was just so great, and something we all should consider, and I just thought it was so great. 5 out of 5 stars. And then, oh wonder, I read Extras by Scott Westerfeld, and this is about another character, but it's still in the world of the Uglies series, but we have a new main protagonist, Aya Fuse, and I really like this book as well. right until the end I thought it wasn't as strong as the other books because we had another protagonist and it was different, but the end was just like so great and so like happy and-ish for me, and I really liked that, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars because it was just a great finish for the series in my opinion. And the last book I read this month was The Evolution of Mara Dyer. I have been reading this book, like, I kid you not, like since the end of February, and don't get me wrong, I liked this book. It's not that I didn't like it, but just how the story developed, I wasn't really a fan of that, because although we had a lot of pages in this book, it's the thickest of the series, it has over 500 pages, although you could really get through it fast, I think there wasn't a lot happening, so I put it down like every once in a while, and that's why it took me so long to get through it. But I loved the relationship of Mara and Noah. They're just so great. They're my favorite book couple at the moment, and Noah is just so romantic and I really like that, but I didn't like the way it developed throughout the book, and the end was really kind of strange and weird, and although it's a book not realistic at all, and that's why I didn't like it as much as the first book. It wasn't that gripping for me, so I gave it a 3.75 out of 5 stars because the first book was better in my opinion. So these are the books I read the last 2 months. I managed to get my TBR to 24 books in March, and because I bought so many books in April, I stayed on 24 books. But I read all of them, like, or at least just not all of them, but most of them I read. And yeah, that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on the books. Just let me know in the comments what you think of the books and why, and how you like the books, and give me a thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you soon with another video. Goodbye!